All right, week 9 college football breakdown here. Big noon kickoff on Fox. You got Ohio State traveling to State College, to Happy Valley, and taking on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Seeing Ohio State on the road as 15.5-point favorites in this spot. I'd say for an Ohio State game, pretty standard total at 61. Number one thing that jumps out when betting an Ohio State game, I'm not breaking any news here. They've got an elite offense, and there's really nothing not to like about this unit. I mean, they got CJ Stroud, very well may win the Heisman Trophy this year. He's an over 10-yard per attempt kind of guy, and that dates back to last year as well. Really good in the vertical passing game. I think a lot of that has to do with how many weapons he has on the outside with Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Ibuka, Jackson Smith and Jigba, who coming into the year was projected to win the Biletnikoff Award. He's back healthy now. There's just weapons galore on this offense. Oh, and then we got Travion Henderson, Mayan Williams, two guys that are over 6 yards a carry. The offensive line is held up well. There is nothing not to like about this offense. It's clearly the best offense in college football. My one rule, though, you can't ever assume, and I made this mistake week 1 with Ohio State. I laid the 17.5 with them when they played Notre Dame. And, coming into the year, the narrative was they're going to hang 40 on everybody. Now, ever since that game, they really have, but you cannot assume that even the best teams are going to carry that over week to week. You have to account for maybe a game or two where even the best teams in the country are not going to look like themselves. In theory, if there were to be a spot for Ohio State to slip up, and I'm not necessarily saying lose outright, but maybe not pass the eye test, it would be here. The one thing about Penn State, I like what they have in their secondary. Joey Porter Jr. is a really good cover corner. I think he can go toe-to-toe with Marvin Harrison, some of those outside guys that he's going to be tasked with going one-on-one with. My issue with Penn State's defense lays much more within their front seven. When they have faced balanced teams, haven't stopped the run very well. Pass rush specifically has been pretty disappointing. I don't know why James Franklin hired Manny Diaz as his defensive coordinator. As a Texas fan, I've lived through the Manny Diaz experience before. Don't know why anybody would put themselves through that. I don't think he's a good defensive coach. And so I don't trust Penn State's defense over the totality of this game. If Penn State's going to hang in this game, it's going to have to come via their offense. I've on record saying that I think Sean Clifford is an extremely average quarterback. I mean, he's been less than 8 yards per attempt throughout his career. He's not a special player. I think he's capable at this point in his career of stepping up in this matchup, though. Who has Ohio State played? Who's challenged that secondary? Iowa hasn't. Wisconsin hasn't. Rutgers hasn't. To a certain extent, Notre Dame early in the season hasn't. For all the talk about Michigan and their lack of strength of schedule, let's not act like Ohio State's playing in the NFC West or anything. They've had a pretty favorable schedule themselves. Penn State, what this game's going to come down to is, can Penn State run the football? It's really been the X factor of that team all year. When they can, it opens up the rest of their offense, and they operate pretty efficiently. But when Sean Clifford has to be the main source and the only source of their offense, it's just not a very good unit. We have seen that linebacking core at Ohio State step up pretty well this year. How much of that is due to who they've played? This is going to be a pretty good test facing Nick Singleton, freshman back for Penn State. He's a pretty explosive player. Though I don't really worry about how the Buckeyes will fare against some of Penn State's other backs. But if they haven't taken that next step within their run defense, this could be a spot where Penn State could have success. I know a lot of people assume, you hire Jim Knowles, it automatically makes your defense that much better. To a certain extent, that's true. It doesn't make you unbeatable. And quite frankly, Ohio State's gotten some pretty favorable matchups early in the season. Suffice to say, I don't really know what to do with this game. If I had to play this game, I'm playing it over. 61 seems a bit low for an Ohio State game. Once again, you can't just assume that, this team's going to put up 40 against anybody. But with the balance in this Ohio State offense, with my concerns about Penn State's front seven, should be able to put points up in this matchup. My concerns with the Buckeyes falling on the defensive end. Are they as legit as they're being priced? I think Penn State could get into the upper 20s here. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a 41-27 kind of game. Personally, I would have made this total 64.5, 65. So it just does seem a little bit low. I'm not sure if I'm going to get to the window with it. No real feel on the side. I'm not laying 15.5 with Ohio State when it's Penn State Super Bowl. It's really as simple as that. This is just too rich of a price for me. It's over or pass. If I had to say right now, though, probably isn't going to make my card. You see this shirt. Halloween's coming up. We got the Halloween theme. Head over to proud90.com. Unique but very comfortable polos as well. With the colder weather coming, also got a great selection of hoodies and quarter zips. Proud 90 has got all your golf apparel needs. If you see anything you like at proud90.com, use code Fordham at checkout. It's going to get you 15% off your entire order. Code Fordham at checkout is going to get you 15% off your order. Support me, support Proud 90. The rest of the information will be in the description below.